Now that you have set up the force sensor, you are ready to go ahead and configure Logger Pro so that you're ready to start collecting data for both the mass of the objects you're going to be exploring and the gravitational force that the Earth exerts on those objects. This is what Logger Pro looks like before we configure anything. It's showing us force versus time, and the force reading appears in the lower right-hand corner, and you might notice that it's not exactly 0, but we'll take care of that as we get started. Now, the first thing to be aware of is that the force sensor is, by default, measuring versus time. So if I hit collect and then actually pull or push on the force sensor, I see the values changing. That works fine sometimes, but for this experiment, we don't really care about time. We're trying to explore the relationship between force, the gravitational force, and mass. So we're going to change our experiment here. We're going to actually just go to experiment, and we're going to go to data collection, Control D, data collection. And instead of our mode being time-based, we're going to select events with entry. And what this is going to do is it's going to eliminate time from our data altogether. Instead, we're going to make a column called mass, spell out mass. The short name for that will be M. The units we're going to use will be kilograms, kg. When I hit done, you're going to see now that the axis that was time is now labeled as mass in kilograms. Now, we're still reading force on the vertical axis, which is important. That's the gravitational force that's being read by the force sensor. By changing to our mode of event with entry, we actually have a new button that's grayed out here, and that's going to come into play in just a moment. But first, I want to zero the force sensor so that it actually is reading 0 as it is hanging from that support beam. When I click this, it's going to ask me if I want to zero the force sensor, and it will zero right away. And then now when I hit collect, you're going to see that a reading appears and the button keep is now live. So I'm going to take an object that I found the mass of. The mass of this object is about 200 grams or 0.2 kilograms. I'm going to hang it on the force sensor, and you see that that red knob moved, that red button there, a red dot. As I take it off and put it back on, you can see that it changes. Well, I know the mass of this object. It looks like the force is kind of settled at that value. So I'm going to actually click keep. And then since I know the mass of this is 0.2 kilograms because there's 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram, I'm going to do 0.2 kilograms, hit OK. What you'll notice now is that it's kept a value, 0.2 kilograms, 1.92 newtons of force. What you can see is that the actual data point is right behind that big red dot. I just pulled it right down there so we could see. And so I can keep doing this with a variety of objects. Every time I click keep, I type in the mass. Once I've done this for about 8 to 10 objects, I will go ahead and click stop and then analyze the data as I would normally.